News from the Borderland. This is EPAS Unleashed. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to EPAS Unleashed. I'm your host, Jessica Navarro. We have a very special holiday episode. Joining us today is Dr. Rubio from TLC. Thank you so
Hi.
much for taking your time out of your day to join us. Of course, it is a holiday season. We do see a lot of pets, get sick or injured during this holiday time, and so that's kind of what we're going to be talking about during this episode. But first, can we get a little about you for the listeners?
Yes, of course. Well, thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to be here and talk about Christmas safety for your pets. My name is Priscilla Rubio. I graduated from Texas A&M Veterinary School this May, actually May of
Oh, wow.
2023. I started working at TLC Animal Hospital. Right after graduation, I've been volunteering there and working there as a veterinary assistant for probably 8 years now. So
Oh,
definitely
wow.
has a special place in my heart. I'm very
Uh-huh.
excited to be working there. Um, a little bit more about why I got into veterinary medicine. I wanted to be a vet since I was a little girl. I can't explain why. I was just born with that passion for
Yeah.
animal medicine, specifically animals. I think because they don't really have a voice for themselves. So
Mhm.
that for me is what drew me in. I wanted to be the voice for the voiceless, essentially. So I think
Mhm.
that's really what uh, made me lean toward animal medicine
Mhm.
versus human medicine.
Okay, that's
Mhm.
awesome. Congratulations on that. We hope
Thank
to
you.
see more of you here and helping us out because I know TLC they do a lot for us. And of course, like you said, being a voice for the voiceless.
Mhm.
Today we definitely are going to talk about pet safety.
Yes.
And just jumping in, I think food is a big issue during the holiday time. I know my dogs like to get into everything. So can we
Mhm.
talk a little bit about food and food safety during this holiday time?
Yeah, definitely. That's a I mean, it's a big issue. We vet clinics are actually super busy during Christmas season for exactly what you said. Dogs and cats will get into anything they can get their snouts into.
Yeah.
So I guess the most common toxins I'll talk about today. Number one, I think will probably be chocolate. Chocolate is a very common ingredient used during Christmas season. Chocolate cake,
Yes.
chocolate bars everywhere.
Hmm.
Um, What's really toxic about chocolate is two ingredients that it has, theobromine and caffeine. So, on that note, anything with caffeine is also toxic. So, anything in coffee, green tea, soda, anything with caffeine will also apply to this. But chocolate specifically, it affects three organs in dogs: the heart, the GI system, um, and the brain.
Oh, wow.
So the more common symptoms that you'll see are going to be the GI symptoms: vomiting, diarrhea, drooling. But if they get a high enough dose where it turns super toxic, then you'll see the more severe effects, which can be the brain effects, so seizures, muscle tremors. And then the heart, it causes the heart to work a lot harder than it's supposed to. So it can lead to heart arrhythmias, and they can actually die from a heart attack. So those are the serious side effects of chocolate. Um, Another big one would be garlic and onions. That's commonly used in foods,
Yeah.
especially during Christmas time. Those are toxic because they start destroying the red blood cells in the dog and the cat. So they essentially turn anemic, very weak. Again, you'll see the GI side effects with vomiting and diarrhea. So definitely, if you know that your pet got into any of these foods, or you see any of these symptoms, take them immediately to a vet clinic so that they can get treatment, because all of these things can end up in fatalities.
Yeah, and definitely, I mean, like I said, my pets like to get into everything and making sure that that trash is secure.
Mhm.
Because I know sometimes people, oh, I didn't give them anything, or I'm not going to give them anything, but they're smart and they
Oh,
can get
yeah.
into to
Yep.
trash.
Mhm.
And then also, I know during the holiday season, we do get a lot of people maybe drinking a little alcohol. Can we talk,
Mhm.
can we talk a little bit about pet safety in terms of alcohol?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, alcohol, just like in humans, it affects our brain.
Yeah.
So they can have a lot of very serious side effects with it. If you ever see that your dog or cat gets into alcohol, again, I would take them immediately to a veterinary clinic so that they can get appropriate treatment. Um, if they ever ingest a toxin that happened within a time range of 2 hours, then they can actually induce vomiting. So they'll give them an injection that can let them vomit. That way the body doesn't absorb those toxins. After the 2 hour mark, at that point, it's already absorbed into the system. It's a little too late to induce vomiting at
Mhm.
that point. But they can go ahead and start treatment like aggressive fluid therapy to try to flush everything out. Um, if you're also not sure if they ingested a high enough amount, you're really not sure, you want to make sure first, then you can definitely call the ASPCA Animal Poison Control number.
Yeah.
If you search it on Google, the number will pop up. It's an 888 number, but you can tell them, they're going to ask you basic questions. What breed is your dog or cat, the weight, how much was ingested, and they'll do calculations to see, is this toxic? Should you go to your vet immediately? They'll
Mhm.
kind of guide you on what the next step should be.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So definitely making sure that we keep an eye on our pets because like you
Mhm.
said, the faster that we see that they might have got into
Yeah.
something, that could make a difference.
Yeah, I can.
Um and also I know that sometimes I have been guilty of doing this, giving my dog some bones from
Mhm.
some of the meals that we made. So can
Mhm.
we talk a little bit about safety in terms of giving dogs bones?
Yeah, definitely. That's a big one too. We have a lot of emergency surgeries because of bone ingestion. Reason being is that, there's a few bad things about bones. Number one, which is a less serious one, they can crack a tooth, which can be extremely painful for them. It can lead to tooth root infections as well. But the more serious effect of it is that those little bones can get stuck in the intestines. It can actually perforate the intestine as well. If it perforates the intestine, they can turn septic. That's a medical emergency at that point. They can also cause an obstruction in the intestines. So think of the intestines being a long tube like a straw. If you get a big ball in there and clump it up, nothing can pass through it.
Wow.
So you'll see a lot of symptoms like vomiting is going to be the big one. You might also see diarrhea. They might be painful in their abdomen, and they just don't look right. They'll be acting lethargic and dumpy. Those are all very, very serious things to watch out for and
Mhm.
take them to the vet for. Because if it causes an obstruction, like I said, that is a surgical emergency. We do have to open them up and take it out to unblock the intestines. And hopefully we catch it before it causes any perforations.
Mhm. And do you see a lot of that during
Oh
the
yeah.
holidays?
Oh yeah. We're
I
very
bet.
busy during Christmas time with dogs that ingested bones or any object at that point, toys, anything, and it got stuck in the intestines.
Yeah, yeah, I
Hmm.
bet. And during the holiday season, we do see like a lot more like flowers and plants. But some of these can be toxic to pets. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Mhm. Yeah, so specifically during Christmas season, common flowers will be like poinsettias, holly berries, mistletoe, all of those. Definitely, I would keep away from your dogs and your cats,
Hmm.
because again, they're curious creatures. They'll get into
Yeah.
anything, and again, with anything toxic, the first thing that's going to be affected is the GI system. So you'll see vomiting, diarrhea, but mistletoe specifically can actually have some effects on the heart.
Wow.
It can cause them to have heart arrhythmia similar to chocolate. So it can be
Mhm.
very serious. So definitely, if you're going to have those plants in your house, make sure they're in a place where your pets don't have access to them.
Mhm.
That way, there's no chance that they'll accidentally ingest it.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, Christmas trees are a big thing that
Mm-hmm.
that might cause some hazards for your pet. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a good one. So a few different aspects about Christmas trees. One is going to be the lights on them.
Mhm.
If they bite them, they can electrocute themselves.
Mhm.
If you get lucky, maybe they'll just cause some ulcers in their mouth,
Mhm.
and that's it. But some dogs aren't that lucky, or cats, they both equally bite
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
I think cats more so because they can climb on
And they
things.
like to
So
climb
yeah, they're
those
more likely to
trees.
climb on the trees. Um, but they can electrocute, other organs, their
Mhm.
lungs, their brain. It can be very serious. So that's a safety issue for them. Not only that, it's a safety issue for everyone in the household because it can cause a fire to start
Yeah.
in the house. And then lastly, the ornaments, things like tinsel on them, they
Mhm.
can ingest that. And going back to causing intestinal obstruction,
Mhm.
um, the tinsel specifically, since it's string like,
Mhm.
anything that's ingested that is linear can cause their intestines. If you think about the instrument, the accordion,
Mhm.
it can bunch up the intestines to look like an accordion,
Oh, wow.
which you can imagine the pain and inflammation that
Oh,
that
yeah.
causes. And again, it can cause perforations in the intestines. So those specifically are things that you want to watch your pets closely for.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, me personally, my cat likes to climb up those trees,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mine too.
she's fallen from the tree a couple times. So
Oh.
just making sure. I mean, she lands on her feet, but
Mm-hmm.
I we do have like some recommendations of maybe like putting a baby gate or
Mm-hmm.
tying the tree, with like fish line
Yeah.
to keep it up, just to make sure that your pets aren't getting up into the tree and getting hurt.
Yeah, you can
Um,
if you're gonna put tinsels and ornament, and you know your pets are gonna be around it, then put it higher up on the tree where they can't
yeah.
reach it. That would also be a
Mhm.
good tip. But I like the baby gate idea as well.
Yeah, baby gate. And then of course the gifts under the tree,
Hmm.
the wrapping paper and all
Hmm.
that. Can we talk a little bit about that? Is
Yeah, I mean, I'll this kind of all leads back to pets will eat anything and it can cause blockage in the stomach and the intestines. So,
Mhm.
if they eat a good amount of that wrapping paper, that's enough to cause an obstruction. We don't know what's in these gifts. If it's a little piece of toy, again, they can
Mhm.
swallow that. They can choke on it. They're choke hazards, and again,
Yeah.
an obstruction in the GI system, which can lead to emergency surgery. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of things during Christmas time to be careful about.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and on that note, I mean, a lot of times, especially me, I have a little toddler at home, and most of her toys have batteries. So
Oh,
getting
yes.
into batteries, that's definitely a hazard for pets.
Yeah, so with batteries specifically, if they ingest it, most people don't know this, but it can actually cause a zinc toxicity, and it can be fatal. They'll start looking sick very soon. Again, that requires an emergency surgery to get the battery out, and then aggressive treatment to try to get them through it if we catch it on time. But
Mhm.
definitely, batteries is a big one that can be fatal.
Yeah. And of course, during this time, we do have a lot of visitors, going in and out of the house. So, how important is it for pets to have a microchip during the holiday season? Of course, it's always important, but
Yeah.
especially during this time.
Yeah, definitely important year round, but especially during times like Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July,
Hmm.
there's going to be a lot of opportunity where doors accidentally are left open, with so many people coming in and out, or sometimes they get spooked, they jump fences, they escape. So in those situations, of course, number one, we want them to have a collar with your information,
Hmm.
but sometimes these collars get lost. So that's where the microchip comes in handy. Um, if a dog gets lost or a cat and they happen to be microchipped and you find them,
Hmm.
the majority of veterinary clinics and animal shelters will have microchip scanners. So they can actually take this pet in and they'll scan it. If that owner is registered to it, then they can actually contact that company who will contact the owner and let them know that someone found their pet. And that's the easiest way to help them reunite with their owner. So it's very sad in situations where they don't have a collar, they don't have a microchip. It's really hard to reunite them with their owner. In those cases, I would keep a lookout on your local Facebook pages, Instagram pages, kind of look out to see if anyone posted your pet, or if you found someone, try posting it on the lost and found pets. But definitely microchip will make everyone's lives easier.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, we have our resources on our website as well for anybody that lost their pet. But that microchip, it really does work.
It does.
Making sure that it stays registered, and getting that done before the holiday season, just to be safe, even if we feel like it's never going to happen to us or to our pets.
You never know.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And because of all of these people coming in and out of your home and all of these new noises and new smells that maybe your pet might not be used to, do you recommend having like a safe space for our pets to be in to get away from this busy time? Because I know this stresses me
Mm-hmm.
out. So if it
Yeah.
stresses me out, I'm sure it's stressing out my pets as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, I guess just like humans, if a stranger walks into your house, you're gonna freak out, right?
Yeah.
So same concept with dogs and cats. It can be very stressful and anxiety inducing to have a bunch of strangers just come in. They're
Hmm.
not used to it. Usually it's probably just gonna be you and your family members in the house that are there on an everyday basis. Um, So not only can it cause a lot of fear and anxiety, but it can also lead to aggression. Even if your pet has always been, the perfect angel, never bit anybody,
Mm-hmm.
out of fear, they might bite because they think they're either protecting themselves or protecting their owner.
Mm-hmm.
So to protect your guest, I would recommend a safe space for the animal, whether that's keeping them in a bedroom or if they have a kennel or crate that they're already accustomed to.
Yeah.
That would be a good idea whenever you have guests over. But not only that, like I said, it can cause a lot of anxiety in them. So some pets might even require sedation medications. The more commonly used ones are going to be trazodone and gabapentin.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, this is something that you need to get prescribed by your veterinarian.
Mm-hmm.
Always make sure you tell your vet if your dog or your cat is on any other medication, because they can have contraindications with other medications. So you
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to let them know if they're taking anything else. But these medications, it helps soothe them down.
Mm-hmm.
That way they're not, so freaking out so much and they're
Mm-hmm.
not feeling so much anxiety. They're going to feel a
Yeah.
little bit more calm, more relaxed, at least during just short term during that period while there's so much commotion going on in the house.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I know that some pets, as much as we try to comfort them or put them
Mm-hmm.
away, they maybe need that extra little help,
Yeah.
especially during the holiday season, like you said. So visiting a vet and kind of knowing your pet, like I
Mm-hmm.
know I have 5 dogs at home, and one of them super anxious around,
Mm-hmm.
strangers and new people coming into his home.
Yeah.
So making sure we think ahead for our pets, not the day of like, oh shoot, what like
Exactly.
he's freaking out and why? It
Exactly.
this is a different environment and situation for our pets. So making sure we think ahead and like you said, being a voice. I know that sometimes we get in, maybe guests that are super excited to see your pet and they want
Mm-hmm.
to greet them and they want to
Mm-hmm.
be all over them, but knowing our pet and knowing their limits and making sure that we advocate for them and keeping them in like a safe space
Mm-hmm.
for them to rest and not be so stressed.
Definitely. And on that note, actually, with visitors come children as well.
Yes.
That's also an important thing to touch on because some children they don't, not because they're doing it on purpose, but they just don't
Yeah.
have experience handling pets.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they handle them too roughly. The child can get bitten.
Mm-hmm.
The animal can get hurt. Sometimes they drop them by accident. They can break a leg.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also important to educate your kid,
Mm-hmm.
about not touching strange dogs or being gentle in handling them, always asking the owner first, like, may I touch your animal? Because you just never know when accidents might happen.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. And I mean, like you said, the kiddos, they don't know better.
Mm-hmm.
But making sure that we put a stop to it or
Mm-hmm.
just teach them how to handle animals and be around them. And so in case of an emergency, what do you recommend? I know that we kind of touched on the PCA poison control number,
Mm-hmm.
Googling it and they can walk you through. But what are other ways that they can stay, ready in case something does happen?
Yeah, so planning ahead is definitely key in these situations. So even if you don't foresee an emergency happening with your pet, I would
Hmm.
still look up the closest animal emergency to you.
Hmm.
Of course, if something happens during the day and most vet clinics are open, then great, you can call ahead and see if they can see your pet right away. But
Hmm.
if this happens to happen in the middle of the night or when most clinics are closed, then
Yeah.
definitely there's always 24/7 animal emergency clinics in the vast majority of cities. So I would search online to see which one is the closest one to you. That way you're prepared and you know where to go in case something happens.
Yeah, yeah, definitely having like that number on hand
Mm-hmm.
and knowing the location, knowing how long it takes you to
Yes.
get there. All
Mm-hmm.
these things are things to consider just in case a situation does happen. I know a lot of people again don't think it's going
Mm-hmm.
to happen to them, but you guys are busy during this
Mm-hmm.
time for a
Very
reason.
busy. Yes.
Are there any stories that maybe you could think of off the top of your head that during this holiday season that you want to kind of share, and maybe something that we can have people be aware of? That
Yeah, I mean, going back to the chocolate one, it's a big one.
yeah.
But last Christmas, actually, I have a golden retriever. His name's
Okay.
Simba, super cute.
Oh.
But he likes to eat everything that he finds. So my dad actually had a ginormous jumbo-sized dark chocolate
Oh
bar,
no.
and he devoured the entire thing.
Oh, wow.
Thankfully, my dad was honest with me right away. He was like, "Listen." don't get mad, but he just ate my entire chocolate bar. But thankfully, because of that communication of him letting me know, I knew, okay, like we still have time to make him, vomit. So I took him right away to the vet. We induced the vomiting. The giant chocolate bar came out, and everything was okay, thankfully. But I've heard some sad stories from clients where their dogs weren't so lucky. Either the owner didn't realize they had gotten into the chocolate,
Yeah.
or they realized too late, and their
Mhm.
dog actually ended up passing away, which is extremely sad and unfortunate because
Yes.
you never want chocolate to be the cause of that. That's definitely
Mhm.
something that owners don't foresee happening.
Mhm.
So definitely, if you're going to have any of these ingredients in your house, hide them in cabinets, hide them in high places where your pets don't have access to them.
Mhm.
um and on that note of chocolate, the darker it is, the more toxic it is. So
Mhm.
it goes white chocolate being the least toxic, milk chocolate, dark chocolate, and then cocoa powder. That's kind of the order of increasing toxicity. So just, I
Mhm.
guess, be cognizant of that as well.
Yeah, and I mean that's great that your dad was
Mm-hmm.
honest with you,
Yeah.
but also, I mean, I guess on that note, making sure that we let our guests also know,
Mm-hmm.
because I know my parents like to give my dogs things behind my back.
Yeah.
So just kind of being aware and letting guests know, like, hey, don't give my pet anything
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know, and kind of again being their voice during this time because
Mm-hmm.
losing a pet is hard
Yeah.
in any time, but especially during the holiday season, we don't want you to have to go to the vet. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you guys are super busy, and it's not something that you want to see as these
Mm-hmm.
pets coming in because um, something happened like this. So.
Yeah. And it's really just a matter of educating clients and educating your family members and friends
Mhm.
that go over. But like you said, guests love giving things to the dogs. They give them the cute puppy eyes.
Uh-huh.
They always act like they're starving, even though they just ate.
Yes.
So it's hard to resist. But especially during Christmas, we have a lot of fatty foods,
Mhm.
like meats, like ham, anything with sugar. Those are very common.
Mhm.
And people will think, like, oh, let me just toss a little piece of ham to my dog, no big
Mhm.
deal. But all of these things that contain a lot of fat can actually lead to pancreatitis in
Mhm.
both dogs and cats, but more commonly, if it's diet induced, it's more common in dogs than it is in
Mhm.
cats. But what happens when they ingest an overwhelming amount of fat is that sometimes people think that we can eat a million cheeseburgers and we're fine. But
Yeah.
your dog won't be because they don't process fat the same way we do. It's
Mhm.
too much for them.
Mhm.
So their pancreas is the organ that's in charge of releasing digestive enzymes to help digest everything that they eat. Whenever they eat fatty foods like the ham or the gravy, the mashed potatoes with butter, all of these Christmas foods, their pancreas basically gets overloaded and it starts releasing way too many enzymes, except that they're acting on itself. So the pancreas is basically in self-destruction mode at this point.
Mhm.
So that causes so much pain and inflammation. You'll see vomiting, diarrhea, lethargy. They don't feel well. What's dangerous about that is that all that fluid loss from the vomiting and diarrhea, I mean, they can die from the dehydration if it goes untreated. It also has some very bad secondary complications. It can actually cause them to go into multi-organ failure because the pancreas is releasing so much inflammation that the liver, the kidney, the heart, they can all become affected. It can be a very serious situation just from giving your pet something fatty. So I
Mhm.
always say prevention is key. Just don't
Mhm.
do it.
Yeah.
If you're ever in doubt of is this okay to give to my pet or not, just don't give it. they
Yeah.
they don't need it. They really don't need it. You'll save yourself a trip to the vet, which can be expensive. You'll
Mhm.
save yourself your dog being sick. So definitely, if in doubt, don't give it.
Yeah, that's I think a perfect way to kind of sum up
Mm-hmm.
the episode is just keep to the
Mm-hmm.
dog treats,
Yeah.
dog food,
Leave them
cat
alone. They'll
treats.
be fine.
Yeah, they're giving you those eyes just because they know that they can get something out of you.
Yeah.
Um, because I learned a lot just from this episode. Like, oh
Mm-hmm.
man, there's a couple times where I snuck my dog, a couple of things, but not this year
Yeah.
after this episode.
Mm.
But anything else that you would like to mention?
Um, I don't know. I think
I
I
I
think I've
think you
mentioned
you
all the
hit
points.
everything.
But of course, if any dog or cat owner ever has any questions or doubts, like you mentioned earlier, plan ahead. You don't
Mhm.
want to plan the day of when everything's
Mhm.
chaotic.
Yeah.
Definitely have these conversations with your veterinarian beforehand, weeks in advance. Ask them questions that you're not sure about. Ask them about kennel training. Ask them about, trazodone or gabapentin if they're very anxious dogs. Ask them about foods that are okay to give.
Mhm.
For example, boiled chicken with no seasoning. That's fine to give.
Mhm.
Um, so ask your vet what's okay, what's not. That way you can plan ahead and prevent any accidents from happening.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like I said, I think you pretty much hit
Mhm.
everything. This was a great episode. I think it was very informative for the community before, the holiday time. So thank you so much for taking time to come and speak about all of this. And we hope that this will prevent you guys from getting some of those cases in this year.
Hopefully.
But thank you so much. And we also do really want to thank our community for supporting us. Our whether you came out to volunteer this year, donate, adopt, foster, even just liking and listening into our episodes or following our page, it all it goes back to the pets that we have here. So we really do want to thank you guys for supporting our life saving mission. And we just want to wish everybody a happy holiday. So thank you guys. We'll
Thank
catch you
you.
next time.